to the Z Lord podcast.
No snow on the
Wait a minute,
ground.
we're talking on
So-
top of each other.
All right, go
There's no
ahead.
snow here. Is that what you're saying?
There's no snow here.
There's no
But it's-
snow here.
But it's cold.
Yes, it's winter. Today is December something, and it is my birthday month. And I'm always very happy in Decembers. I'm a December baby. Brad Pitt and I were born on the same day, a week before Christmas.
Very exciting.
And it's pretty exciting. I like to celebrate my birth here on this earth. I like the challenge of being a human. I like the fact that life is not just like, this easy peasy thing. The challenges are interesting to me.
Yeah, well, that's actually the subject of discussion today, that, what do we do about stuff that is difficult? And I mean, how do we handle the day-to-day disappointments and challenges that come up so that we can positively work them into our life and not have it just be discouraging and depressing?
Yeah, and like for you, especially right now, you're down with an injury.
Yeah, I'm down with an injury.
You're down with an injury, and it's a pretty serious injury. You've been told, it's on the borderline of being chronic. And so, what's that like, Carter? Because you're a very
it's cutting into what
I'm just saying that for people who don't know you, you are a very dedicated, athletic person, and you love playing tennis and you love being in shape. So when the physical is challenging to you, it's much more than just for an average person. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like a big deal.
Well, I think it's the same. It's interesting because I got another call I got a couple of calls in the last 2 days from people that are having emotional trouble they're having challenges, and the things that they're doing about the challenges aren't working out very well. And one guy in particular, who's a very kind of a prayerful, spiritually organized person, just says that everything I do seems to be wrong and just not working out, and all the decisions I don't understand it. And so,
Wow, wait, so he's just feeling one after the next. He feels he doesn't have an antidote.
yeah, and he says he prays and asks God to help him, and he's not hearing anything back. He's not getting any help, and he's just sinking into kind of a depression. But it's a good question, and it's not just unique to him. It's unique to all of us, and I think that he and I talked it out, and I think he did the right thing, which is call somebody he knows and talk about it, because it's helpful to have, and it's right there in the Bible too, that if you have issues and problems, then you seek counsel. And there's a lot of shrinking and stuff going on in this world, but you can just shrink.
And coaching, lots of coaches and
but you can just have a discussion with a friend who you respect and talk things out, because you get a different perspective. And he and I arrived at the fact that the first thing to do is the very first thing to do in any situation that's like this is to become aware of what's going on, and not just get depressed and feel crappy. If you're feeling crappy, try to figure out why you're feeling crappy. Mm-hmm. So awareness is the first, and then you have to accept that whatever's happening to you, that you have to say, well, it's a fact, it's real. Just like in my case, I've got this injury. I have to become aware that I'm feeling not so good about this, and not just be depressed. I have to be aware of why.
And not just keep beating yourself up because it's happening to you.
And then I have to accept that I've got it, and then I take whatever action I need to take to try to heal it and make it better. In my case, I'm going to the PT.
And not playing tennis, too, because, you were pretty much brutalized yourself. That's how the injury happened.
Yeah, so I have to just accept that and change what I'm doing in here for a while and just do something else. Mm-hmm. And she and I talked. One thing that I've learned as I got older, that there are things happen to all of us. Every person has stuff happens, and there are things that you don't like. Excuse me. And at some point,
We're getting over a cold. We had a
but
bad
one
cold.
of the things is that I have to learn to accept is this is what God has for me. This is what the universe has for
God,
me.
whatever you call the source.
And you know, if I die from a heart attack, then, or if I get a debilitating disease, then the best way to think about it for me is this is what God has chosen.
That's your story.
For me to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I have to accept that that's what I've got, and then I just have to deal with it the best I can. And
Right.
in another guy's situation who called, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, I've got a lot to talk about
And
too.
just one last thing.
with this subject.
One person had a situation where there was had some financial issues going on, and I've had those myself. One of the reasons he called me because I've had those myself, and so we discussed about it, and the thing is that nothing's finished usually, or if it is, then you just have to. At some point, you have to accept what the situation is, and if it's not fixable, then you just have to accept it. And then, if you continue to apply the laws of the universe, which is you'd be generous to others, and you be in service to others, that if we act that way, then the universe will be generous back to us. And so even if you lose on one side, other things will happen to you. It happens to me all the time. That just out of the blue, something that you weren't expecting will come in a positive way and affect you positively and help overcome these things, as long as I'm acting sincerely out of generosity and kindness in a giving attitude to other people. If you give, the universe will give back. Now, that's not why you give. That's not why I give or anybody else gives, but that's the fact. It's like tithing. If you tithe, the universe will bless you immeasurably. And if you don't tithe, then you don't. The universe doesn't give you back, and it's just a law of the universe that is real, and it's hard to get people to buy into it if they don't have a relationship because they don't believe it.
Relationship with the divine, you mean?
The divine, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And to accept tithing, because nobody wants to give that 10%. I remember
we first of all, we don't give it all just to the church. We, as a couple, we split the amount that we have decided, which is 10% of whatever.
But we give our 10%.
Okay, so we find that 10%. Carter does what he's going to do with his share, and I do what I'm going to do with my share. He's more of a Christian-based guy, so he gives to Christian-based things. I'm more of a God is everywhere kind of gal, and I give mine to things like planting trees for the environment and the indigenous, and especially the Hopi tribe, because I have a fondness in my heart for the Hopis and the Pueblo people out in.
But that's giving it to God. That's tithing.
Well, of course it is, but it's not just a church. A lot of people, they shudder at tithing because maybe they're not a church person, first of all, and they don't go to church. So there's other ways of tithing. You can tithe to nature causes and to good causes, just, even to the Red Cross, help out Ukraine, things like that.
It's
right?
pretty accepted over the last 2,000 or 3,000 years that 10% of what you get should be given away. That's a number that's been come up with by the world, all things. But the church employs it that way. I remember some guy was really rich, and he said to the preacher, he was given a little bit, and the preacher said, "Well, I know you're making a lot more money, and we really need some. You need to do your tithing." And the guy said, "Well, do you know how much? I make a lot of money. I mean, that would be a lot of money to give to that by 10%. And the preacher said, "Well, you don't want me to ask God take away your income, do you?
Oh my gosh.
So that's a pretty good way of looking at it. That's pretty funny.
But since I've been with you, Carter, for the last 3.5 decades, I have seen the miracle of what happens when you tithe.
It's amazing.
Because the way I was raised, my parents were of a different social strata. They were just middle class. Carter came from more privileged and more spiritually evolved and college educated and everything. My parents were just working class, like factory workers who brought themselves up by their bootstraps. And I was taught as a kid to save 10%. I remember going to the bank with my little dime out of my $1 allowance, and I was taught to save that money. But in our family, we didn't talk about tithing because it was not part of my consciousness. So when I started hanging out with you, of course I'd heard about tithing, but I just thought, oh, well, I'm not in that social class or that financial strata. But it doesn't matter how much you make, but if you're helping other people with whatever percentage you are comfortable with, and 10% is something that we all can work with, then you give it to good causes, and it's like a metaphysical kind of magic that happens. Just good things start to happen. It changes your karma.
Yeah, and we're supposed to save our 10% also. But the first 10% is whatever it is that comes in after taxes, by the way. That's an interesting thing my dad used to put on at least, because that's what you really get. So whatever you get after taxes and of course the preachers would roll their eyes when they hear that. But that's the truth. Whatever your 10%. Right. And one of the good things about the tithing is it forces you, because you've got a deal going on with God that you're going to give 10%. And so you have to, it forces you to figure out what you're really making. Most of us don't really know what we're really making.
Well, those on salaries do.
Well, no, but they're making other things too. And the things, it forces you to, and you're paying out some things, like you're paying out your taxes. So you're not making, whatever it is you're paying for taxes, you're not making that. That's going to the government. So you don't owe 10% on that. So one of the things about the tithing is it makes you figure out what your 10% is, and then you can choose to give it. Like some of the money that we give away to private people that are not.
Okay, so may I speak for a minute?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Carter. Sometimes I have to just butt right in. So a miracle happened to me this past 2 weeks ago. Now it was. Out of the blue, we get a phone call because Carter and I are on in a study group associated with a very highly evolved metaphysical, spiritual, mystical group, and it's on the website, our phone numbers, and so we get this phone call from a guy named Wayne, and Wayne just happened to be in our town, so he was stranded here, and our town is like a busy town, and he just happened to be in a life situation. I don't want to go too much into detail because it's a long story, but he was really hard up, and he wasn't just a bum. He was part of this spiritual family that we're involved with that does really a lot of personal work to heal our wounds and to also, become more spiritualized so we can help others also achieve some kind of happiness, serenity in life. And so he reached out to Carter and on his answering machine, and then Carter said, "Hey, I just am swamped. Can you take this call?" So yes, I called and spoke to Wayne. So Wayne was dying of cancer, and he had made a pilgrimage back to his home, to his family, to see if they would embrace him one last time before he died, because they had shunned him because he was homosexual. And he had just been ostracized from his family for a long time. And he was dying of cancer, pancreatic cancer, and he didn't have much time. And on his way to visit his family, he actually had to be hospitalized on 2 different occasions. He had to be taken off whatever flight he was on, or train or plane or whatever, and spend time in the hospital. So he was broke. He just had nothing. And I guess he was just maxed out, and he didn't know what to do. So the conversation started, I just need help. I need to brainstorm. And I didn't know if he wanted money. And of course, the first thing that comes into my mind is scam. Excuse me. There was that lingering cough of ours. So I had to really feel out this person, Wayne, to feel that he was sincere, that he was real, that he wasn't a scammer. And all of us are faced with that these days, because there's a lot of scammers out there. There's a lot of con jobs. They're preying on the elderly, but also people who just don't, pay attention, and all of a sudden their life funds are gone. They've made a bad investment, blah, blah, blah. You know the story. We don't have to repeat it. And so Wayne gave me good vibes. He just felt sincere to me. And so I said, well, don't you have friends? Can somebody help you? Because he had said that there was going to be a ticket given to him by FedEx to get him home on a train, because he couldn't do planes anymore. He said, I'm taken care of in that respect. I have a train ride tomorrow. I have a jitney picking me up. My friends have taken care of that, but I don't want to ask anymore, and I need food. He said, I don't have enough food to get home. So I said, okay, I'm going to be at your motel. He was staying at a motel. And I showed up, and I got some things out of my pantry, some good, nutritious things, and also some cash. And so even when I met him in person, though, I had to still look him in the eye and to ask him real hard, direct questions to realize that this guy was really another human being who was in distress. And he was dying. I could tell. I've seen it before. And he was really desperate for food and a little bit of cash to get him home. So I trusted the fact that this was not a con job, and I gave him what I could. And we prayed also on the phone call before I went to see him. I said, do you want to pray with me? He said, yes. And so I was the one who was praying, because he was weepy. And of course, I ended up by saying goodbye to Wayne, and I said, I just want to commend you also on having the courage to ask for help, that you had the courage to just reach out through this international spiritual group that we're both involved in. So it wasn't just like going on the corner and panhandling. He was asking another spiritual student, seeker like myself and Carter, to help him. And I said, that just takes a lot of courage. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about having courage, because we all go through challenges, whether it's physical or financial or with our families. And it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of honesty to work things out, but it also takes a lot of courage. And to me, the courage to change, that's in the AA serenity prayer. God grant me the courage and the serenity and the wisdom to know the difference when you know that you can't change things, but you have the courage to change the things you can, and you want to have serenity. So I think that's what we're really talking about here.
Yeah, well, one of the things in most spiritual treatises or orders,
guidebooks.
one of the main things is that when you've got issues is to talk about it with somebody else. It doesn't have to be a psychiatrist or a shrink or anybody. It can just be a person. And so the benefit of counsel is a great thing in life, because you get somebody else's different perspective on your stuff. You can get a different point of view, and that's helpful, especially if you're open to what the world has for you and what the universe has for you and what God has for you. And so if we can accept, if I can accept what is coming at me, like I've got this injury now, or any kind of a negative, bad thing, like I've been taken advantage of significantly in money situations sometimes just by being
Your good nature.
overly generous,
Right.
and I'll get ripped off, and so then sometimes it gets worked out with the person that did the ripping off, who was honorable and they made it good, and a lot of times they didn't, and so I just had to accept it. So, but this friend that had called yesterday, we arrived at the end of that, of him, that he hadn't been hearing anything from God, and he'd been asking for guidance, and he was getting no guidance, and on the contrary, everything he was trying was failing and wasn't working out good. We kind of arrived at the fact that maybe he wasn't seeing it quite rightly, and he was probably getting some guidance. He just wasn't necessarily 100% aware of it. But we all have a still small voice, and if I ask for stuff, for help, I will get answers, like sometimes early in the morning when I first wake up. If I ask for stuff at night for help to help me work something out, and ideas will come, and then I have to take action on them, and then have the long view, because things are never finished until we die. And every day, even though we think, oh, we've failed, we haven't really failed. We might have not had success that day, but there's always tomorrow, and there's always ability to work on these things, and just to keep little by little recognizing and working on the situation. And most of the time, these financial things will work out. Sometimes it takes 6 or 8 months to work out a problem, and you don't get a big change immediately.
And the same with your leg. It will take. It's not going to be fixed in a week, because it's the second time that it's happened, and it may take 6 months.
And it may end up that I'm done playing tennis. That's possible. I mean, if this doesn't get so that I can move without hurting myself, I'm just going to have to find something else to do that's fun. And that'd be a gigantic change in my life. And tennis sounds like a Mickey Mouse little pansy thing to be doing, but for some reason, for me, it's a huge amount of fun. I really enjoy doing
it's social,
running around. We have a lot of fun.
You have a great group
wise
of people.
guys insulting each other and having a good time. And there's just a lot of...
Well, you can be the water boy, Carter.
There's a lot of fun in that for some reason. But I may have to just say I'm done with it, and I've had a lot of fun, and now I got to find something else. And that's maybe what God has for me. And at the end of the day, just like if I got cancer or whatever it is I got, that's what God has for me. And so my job is to make the best of it, and to be thankful, and to appreciate the good things that I can still walk, and so I can go for a walk.
So let me ask a question. So the friend that you were talking to yesterday, the one who's feeling like he's just doing everything all wrong, but you say that he's a spiritual guy. So is he like just stuck in some kind of a self-pity, or is he, what's the deal?
Well, first of all, he's getting older, and doesn't have, he's just having a dark night of the soul, and sometimes you just have hard times. And he recognized that, and he knew me, and he's seen me in action, and he's seen me overcome a lot of stuff, and he was just saying, I need to talk to Carter, because Carter has overcome a lot of things, and I just want to talk to somebody who's clearly overcome a lot of stuff successfully, and he's always got a wise guy kind of a funny attitude. I'm always joking around. And he's not. He's kind of a morose type to begin with. So he called up. I thought that was a courageous thing to do.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say hello, and I'm having some struggles. Nothing seems to be working right. How do you think about these things? And so that gave me an opportunity to think about it, which I hadn't really done, outwardly. And that's kind of what we both kind of came up with that the first thing is I recognize that I have these issues, just like my little thing. I've got this now. And so
you mean your injury?
my injury. Now,
your injury.
instead of
You're
me
not
being
talking about your
depressed-
little thing.
Well, and rather than being depressed and a little bit down in the dumps out of it, I have to accept that, this is affecting me. So
Big time.
then I have to accept that that's what's happening, and then take the action that I can take to make it better, day by day,
And so what is
little
it-
by little.
So let's talk about the positive things then. We've already discovered a lot about recognizing when there's an issue and accepting the fact that there is an issue because it recurs and occurs, and you keep getting kicked in the ass with issues until you finally say, okay, this is really happening. So what's the action that you're taking, for instance? And I can talk about the action that I'm taking for my issues.
Going to PT, making sure I do my exercises, making sure I slow down enough to and take the time to work out this area and give it its best chance to heal, and eat good food and get sleep, and accept the fact that I've got this, and
You're
just
walking too.
and take some walks and do
'Cause
what
you're
the
not much of a
PT guy
walker.
tells me, and do what he says, and realize that I'm in for the long haul on this, and just not be upset that I'm not playing in a game
So you're
on
adapting.
Tuesday.
You're
I've just got to
adapting.
say I'm off for a while. But I think that's the thing about life, and it's the same thing if you don't have a job that's making enough money. Like my son needs to make more money, so we've been talking about it. And so what can we do? What can he do to make some more money? Well, we're talking about it, and he's making some progress,
Right.
and he will totally succeed and get this worked out. But it's not going to happen in 2 days. It's going to take him 6 months to figure out how he's going to reorganize his life, because his wife they've had a baby, and they've made a sudden decision for her to stay home and not work. So that cuts into the family income. So he's got to replace that. So now he's got to figure out, got to rethink things. And a lot of people...
So it's all about change. Change is the name of the game.
Yeah, but that's true for a lot of people in this society. This world has changed. The AI
Change
and
is happening
all the computer
time
thing.
to all of us.
All
We have
of
to
us.
adapt.
And
we can't resist and say, I don't like the fact that I got a new look on my phone. Like the other day, there was an upgrade. Everybody gets crazy about the upgrades.
Me in particular.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's not just happening to a few individuals. It happens to all of us
every day.
All of us. We have to adapt.
And a lot of us are stuck in this money job thing because the jobs have gone away, and now we don't have that, aren't able to use that skill anymore. So what do? We have to figure out what it is we want to do, take the long view, hunker down and start saving some money, not spending so much money, and learn a new craft, learn a new something.
Okay. And so then there's other instances like teZa's. Like, I'm going to be 78 in just a few days. And I'm not this invincible goddess girl that I used to be. And I've had my injuries, and I've had other things where I've had to adapt radically. I love to swim. I love to do laps. But guess what? That's not weight-bearing exercise. You get to a certain point in life where you have to do more weight-bearing things or your bones get brittle. And right now, I have a cracked rib because of a simple yoga maneuver that I've been doing for years and years called the wheel. And my rib cracked, torquing against the floor. So that's just an example of I no longer have the amount of time that I want to do my lapping and everything else. So I've had to sacrifice something that's pleasurable, like swimming laps, and do something that's not as much fun, which is walking, but thinking, I can use this as a time to just get really still in my mind. I don't fill it with listening to podcasts like this beautiful one, but I use it as a time to do a walking meditation, repeating my mantra, repeating my mantra, repeating my mantra. It's a walking meditation. So I've adapted, and it doesn't make me disappointed or angry. It's just the reality that we all have to adapt, and we all have to adjust to the changes of life.
Yeah, and that little by little, we can do things that make things better, and we'll grow as we have an open mind about stuff. That will little by little, and when I talk with my friend about his issues, he was saying, well, yeah, if I think about it that way, maybe this pounding I'm taking, I need it. Maybe I am choosing successfully. I'm not choosing badly. These are just the result of my choices, and I'm just thinking about it in a different way. This is what's happening to me. And so it opened his mind just to think in a more expansive way, and he will come to grips with this, and he will hear the still small voice, because he's heard it all his life, and he knows it's there. And it isn't just stop talking to him; it's just not telling him what he wants to hear. He hears something else. It gives him advice. He took some action, and he had a negative result. Well, that's okay.
And what do you mean he took some action and had a negative?
He went down and had some tests, and the doctor put some electrodes on the back of his knee, and it zapped his knee and knocked him off the table. Now he's got a swollen knee, and he thinks, I never should have gone for that test. Well, he made the best decision at the time to go to that test.
It made it worse.
For that test, it wasn't a negative choice. It's just
right.
That's what God had for him on that chest. Maybe his knee has got something in it, and he needed to pay attention to that knee, and this is the way that God got his attention on his knee. I mean, these things are all happening all the time, and as long as we're open to
the mystery of life, it just leads us one way after the next, here, there, everywhere, and to be in the flow. You know, Mickey Singer talks about like surrendering a lot and just being in the flow of life. Well, that's very well and true. But in the yoga world also, and Mickey is in the yoga world, you practice what's called viveka, which is discrimination. And you don't just go every which way. It's just like when Wayne appeared the other day, I had to vet him. I had to actually ask myself, how can I determine that this is not a gimmick, that this person was for real, this person was really stranded, and this person was dying and needed comfort also, about his homosexuality, about losing his partner to AIDS, about the family rejecting him, about having lost all his weight. He was just skin and bones. And the ironic thing about it, this guy Wayne, is he said up until a year and a half ago, he never had been sick a day in his life. One of these people that never got colds, never had, COVID, never had anything, and all of a sudden, boom. I mean, he's on his way out. But with blessings, because he had a great attitude, and he wasn't feeling sorry for himself. He was just taking the next step that came to him with grace and a lot of love for life, and who and what he is. So I hope this is helpful to everybody, because we all have challenges. It doesn't matter how it appears. We all are going to be challenged in this beautiful experience called the human one. The human one.
And I need to remember that nothing is final. Well, it'll be final when I die, but even that won't be final. We just continue on. But nothing's final. There's always tomorrow, and if I've got the right attitude and I'm not feeling sorry for myself, things will come to me. The still small voice will speak to me and say, well, why don't you try this and why don't you try that? And things get better and things evolve, like even these financial situations that are bad. We work our way through these things, and my friend, he'll work his way out of his depression, because he's partly depressed also because he's been physically hurt and hasn't been able to do stuff. So he's coming to grips with the fact that he's got to change some of the things he's doing, and he's not going to get pleasure from running fast because he can't run fast anymore. Now he has to walk. So he's got to learn how to get pleasure doing walking, and he will.
And it's a very interesting, and to me, a universal truth that when you close a door, whether it's to a relationship or to a habit, another door opens. I mean, there's always the next door that opens. The doors of perception are just infinitely available to us.
Yeah, especially if you give to others, and if you give your 10%, and if you live in service to others, and you're generous to others, I can promise you that the universe will be generous back. And it's always good for the universe to be generous back, because good things happen and they come out of left field, out of nowhere, and it's always a great surprise.
I love that. I love the surprises of life. So everybody have a beautiful, wonderful holidays, whatever you're celebrating, and we will try to be more consistent with our reaching out to you, but it's a busy life we have these days. I'm in the middle of writing my next book, and Carter, you're involved in about 3,000 different things. We won't go into it now, but we have an amazing life. Blessings to you, our friends.
All right, guys.
Until next time.
Onward.
Om Namah Shivaya.